For more than 55 years, Thunder Bay Hydraulics has helped keep critical equipment running through expert hydraulic cylinder repair and manufacturing. With in-house engineering, precision machining, and decades of real-world experience, their team solves tough hydraulic challenges for some of Canada's most demanding industries. Their mission is simple: a relentless pursuit of zero downtime. Learn more at www.thunderbayhydraulics.com.
When that pressure builds up so much in your nervous system, that's when your nervous system is out there looking for threat. That's all it cares about. It doesn't care whether you're successful, whether you make money, whether you're happy. None of the positive things it cares about. It is only looking at is there something that's going to kill you?
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello! Welcome to episode 335 of the Business Development Podcast. And today it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Rochelle Carrington to our stage. Rochelle is an expert in emotional mastery, leadership performance, and the hidden patterns that quietly interfere with our success. After building a 7-figure sales and leadership training company as a top-performing Sandler franchisee and award-winning sales leader, she began to notice a major gap. Even highly capable founders, CEOs, and executives with the right strategy, a strong skill set, and disciplined mindsets were still running into stress, burnout, hesitation, and self-sabotage. That realization led her to develop emotional blueprinting, a methodology designed to remove the deeper emotional patterns that limit clarity, energy, and performance. Today, Rochelle helps leaders eliminate what she calls performance drag, the invisible pressure that clouds decision-making, slows execution, and makes growth feel heavier than it should. Her work goes beyond surface-level mindset advice and gets into the emotional and neurological root of why so many high performers feel stuck, like you are doing everything right, but still not moving the way you know you should. This conversation is going to be powerful because the things slowing you down may be far deeper than strategy alone. Rochelle, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on our stage today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me in. I appreciate that.
When we first had our conversation, some light bulbs were going off in my head because we've all been taught to think and grow rich, haven't we, Rochelle?
Yes, absolutely. Myself included. Yes.
But it just simply isn't always working the way we were told, is it?
Correct.
Well, we're going to dive deep into that today, and I'm very excited to have this conversation. I've enjoyed every chat we've had up till now, and like I said, you're doing so much, and so I'm excited to kind of explore your journey, how you ended up on this path, and what is next. But before we do that, Rochelle, how the heck did you end up on this entrepreneurial journey? Take us way back. How did you end up on this path to leadership and entrepreneurship that you're on today?
Probably by accident, like most people who end up on this path. I started out in magazines, working for fashion magazines like Glamour and Marie Claire. And that was what I had decided at 12 years old I was going to do. I was going to go work for Glamour magazine. And, that was going to be my lifelong world path. And I did end up doing that. And I spent about 16 years in that business in New York City, and it was a great, fun business to be in. And then I started having a family, and I was doing a commute that was about an hour, one way into New York City from one of the suburbs. And it just started to kind of wear on me, where it was just so much. And I felt like there was something else that I was intended to do. I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was, but I knew that I needed to get out of the corporate world. I knew that it was just sort of like eating away at my soul. As I think a lot of people who've been in corporate for a long time, nothing bad about it, but it just, I'd spent my time, I'd paid my dues, and I was ready to do something else.
Yeah.
And that's when I started looking for other opportunities. And it's interesting that when you start to look at other things and you start to look beyond what you're doing, things pop up that you never would have thought of. And
Yes.
that's really how it came to me. I was online trying to find a business to buy. And I was looking in the tech world, even though my kids were like, "You're terrible at tech. You shouldn't do that." And they kept saying, and my family, husband, everybody was like, sales and management. Why don't you stay in that? And I was like, I'm sick of that. I'm sick of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But however, that is what I ended up doing as a result of all of that. So it wasn't something that I had planned long term. But once I got into that mindset of I'm going to start my own thing, I knew what was going to happen at some point.
Wow. Yeah. I love that because it parallels my journey, actually. When I ended up in business development, running as far and fast as I could away from sales and just like fell right back into it, which is always funny. I went to college to take business admin to get out of the sales world because, as a young guy, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to go do business. But in my mind, I'd been working sales for many years by that point. And
Right.
I was like, I just want like an easy 9 to 5 operations job. I had no idea that
Nope.
operations was hard at that time, by the way. But yeah, I basically did that, got through college, got the operations job, and then was pulled into an office and said, like, why are you doing this? You should be doing business development. And I remember going back to my computer and Googling, what is business development? Because nobody taught me what this was. And here we are. So it's funny how you can end up dragged right back into something because it's your purpose, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about that jump, though, because I think, it sounds like you had a pretty cushy corporate job. It sounds like you were probably making good money. You probably had a great career trajectory. Talk to me about that jump. That must have been pretty scary.
It was. I mean, at the time, I just felt like I needed to do it. However, I was the only income producer in the family, and I did have a very good, large salary. I had a car allowance. I had,
Yeah.
all the trappings, the golden handcuffs
Yep.
that sometimes make it difficult to walk away from making that 6 figures. And then you're like, now I'm going down to nothing and I've got to do it on my own. So it was scary, but I had a lot of faith in myself. And I had a lot of people around me that said, look, if anyone can do it, you can do it. And if you want this to happen, you're going to somehow figure out how to make it happen. And so that support system, as well as just, the self-belief. I'm an optimistic person. So for me, it's always like, well, of course it'll turn out fine.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, what? I'm not thinking of the alternative. I'm not looking at the stats that 50% of businesses fail in their first year. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be in that. So it doesn't matter to me. So that was sort of, maybe a little bit of naivete of
Yeah.
what it really took and how hard it was going to be. Because it was definitely harder than I thought. But I guess, when the pain of staying is greater than the risk, you're willing to do it. And that was the situation. I wanted to be in control
Yeah.
of my own destiny and in control of my own calendar. And I worked more than I did when I was in corporate.
Yes.
But it's different when you're working for yourself versus working for somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I work so much harder for myself than I ever
Yeah.
did for someone else. I will
You
admit
have
that.
to. You have no choice.
I also love your glass half full philosophy as well. And I think that a lot of people in sales, business development, we tend to skew that way. And I think it actually tends to make us more successful because we don't really ever look at the fact that we could quit.
Right. Right. No,
We're like, oh no, we'll just figure out how to keep this train rolling.
failure, as they say, failure wasn't an option and quitting wasn't an option. And I did have people who it was kind of interesting where I would go and have lunch with a couple of friends still in the publishing industry later. And they said, well, Rochelle, when this fails, you can always come back because you've got a really good reputation. And I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
not. I didn't go do this to just like play around for a little while and come back. I'm gone. I'm out. And
Yeah.
so that rang in my head for such a
Yeah.
long period of time and really helped me to go, I've got to make this work because I'm not going back there again.
That's powerful, actually. It's like the screw you is a very powerful motivation. Okay, so take us into that. You're in the mindset, you're out there shopping. What happened?
So I was online, and this is many, many years ago. So, buying a business or looking for a business was a little bit different back then than it is now. But I was online looking for things, and I had somebody contact me that was a franchise. I didn't know what they were, but they sold franchises. And so they said, we can help you find a business. And I thought, well, I don't want a franchise because I don't want someone telling me what to do. And I
Yeah.
was thinking a franchise was going to be very, kind of rigid. And that just does not fit my personality. My personality is more of the rules aren't for me. If other people want to follow them, great. But I get to do what I want. So a franchise was like, no.
Yeah.
But, she said, let's do an assessment and, we'll kind of see where your skill set is. And I negotiated that to be done for free. And so I was like, well, if you're going to do it for free, then fine. I've got
Yeah.
nothing to lose. I'm not going to buy anything, but, totally fine. And so she did that. And then she came, and the assessment was really revealing to me on some of the things skill sets that I have and things I needed to work on. So that was really helpful. And then she came back and she showed me a few franchises. And I was like, I guess I'll just talk to a couple of them because, again, nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And then I ended up actually working with the Sandler training franchise. And that really came about by going to one of their, what they call discovery days. And they showed me the methodology of their sales platform. And I went, oh my gosh, like if I had my salespeople when I was in magazine publishing doing this,
Yeah.
that would have changed everything. And so at that point, I was like, show me how you make this into a business. And I'm in because I get the methodology. I bought into that. I thought it was really helpful. And so that was that. Started cold calling right out of my house.
And here we are today, right? Obviously, you did that for 12 years. You were highly successful. You turned that into a 7-figure business. Congratulations. Like,
Thank you.
that's pretty incredible for a training franchise.
Yeah. That was the goal. That was my goal. One of them was to turn it over 7 figures.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it was just going to be a matter of time, how quickly I could do it. And, what levers did I need to pull in order to make that happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you did that from 2007 to 2019. And then from there, what happened? Obviously, COVID came out of nowhere.
Yes.
That was shocking. Did that
Right.
kind of contribute to your pivot?
No, the pivot was really, I was considering it a little bit earlier than that because, again, I had specific goals for that business and I met them. And then I thought, well, now what? Now what am I going to do? What is the next thing? And as I was training and working with all different levels of entrepreneurs and corporations, business owners, I kept seeing one thing, and you alluded to it in, the intro. And that was that you could train the exact same, train 2 people in the exact same methodology, whether it's
Yeah.
management, leadership, or sales, and one would do really well and one wouldn't. And it wasn't the training. And so, I thought, why is that? Why do I see this over and over again that some people do really well with it and some don't? When you've got people that are somewhat equal in terms of their skill level, ability,
Yeah.
intellect, etc. And that really bothered me trying to figure out what that was. And so that kind of led me down let me try to figure out that solution, because when you see something again and again and again, there's got to be some solution for it. And the standard solutions that I had been taught, which was that it was a mindset issue, just were not, it was not clear that that's what it was, because I did a lot of training on mindset
Hmm.
and positive thinking and all of those sorts of things. And it just didn't move the needle in the way that it should have if that were the solution. And then I also felt some things, in my own life where I felt like all of a sudden I had hit a little bit of a plateau. And it was like, well, what's going on with me? Because I'm experiencing these things that I haven't before, where things are harder than they should be. I know what to
Yes.
do, and it's not moving the way it should anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was also looking internally and externally at the same time, trying to figure out what's the answer here.
Yeah, yeah. And I can actually resonate with that really well. If I look at the podcast journey, right? And I think I like to use the podcast journey because it's something that I have a lot of experience in now. And it's funny because I think somebody would look at a podcaster and say, well, it gets easier over time, right?
Mhm.
Creating content just gets easier because you know what you're doing, you have experience with it. I would argue the opposite. I have found that, especially with my thought leadership episodes, they've actually gotten more challenging over time, not easier, which was surprising to me. And I
Yeah.
think is surprising to a lot of people. But I know that for myself, my expectation of what I put out, what is good enough for me, has constantly
Right.
raised the bar, right? So
Right.
you hit a point at which it actually becomes more challenging today than it was around episode 30, 40, 50.
Hmm.
Is that something that you found with some of your high performers as well? Quick pause here, and thank you for tuning in and supporting the show. I want to recognize Hyperfab, a Canadian precision fabrication company built by the team behind Hypervac Technologies, supporting projects in both Canada and the United States. They focus on high-quality sheet metal, fast turnaround, and solving complex fabrication challenges when it matters most. Hyperfab is proud to be our title sponsor for 2026. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really where I get into, the concept of performance drag. Because what happens with high performers is you are used to just continuing to push through and do more and work harder. And
Yeah.
we get told by all the gurus out there, you got to have grit and resilience and push through the pain. And that will work up until a certain point. And then what happens is people hit performance drag, which is basically accumulated stress that builds up in your nervous system, and it starts to slow everything down. It starts to make your decisions you don't make them as quickly. You're not sleeping like you used to. Everything, the mental noise gets louder and louder. Your ability to focus just kind of goes away. You find yourself reading emails, 3 times, and you're like, what did I just read? I don't even know what I did.
Yeah.
Get frustrated and just annoyed a little bit more easily than what you did before. And it does impact revenue over the long term. So a lot of high performers will push, and you can do that. And I did that myself for a very long time. And then you're going to hit a point where your nervous system is so overloaded that it
Yeah.
cannot do it anymore. And
Yeah.
that's where you hit performance drag. And that's where things start to feel harder, even when you know all the things to do, even when you've got the skill set to do it.
Yeah.
So performance drag just sort of, I call it the hidden tax on high performers and business owners. You don't really know what's happening until it hits you and you're like, what's wrong with me? Why is it so hard all of a sudden?
Yeah, yeah. And I think what's been surprising too, and at this point I've interviewed hundreds of people, is that burnout is very, very, very common. I would say I think everybody that I've talked to at some point has experienced burnout. And it almost seems inevitable.
It can be if you're not if you don't understand how the nervous system works and how it runs about 95% of what you do. So, and burnout a lot of times is something that it's oftentimes a misdiagnosis for that pressure and that stress. And the problem with everything being labeled as burnout is people feel like, well, if I just go take the vacation, if
Yeah.
I just cut my hours, if I just go, meditate every day, then it will fix the burnout. The problem is it doesn't because it still is held in your nervous system. And your
Yes.
nervous system holds all of your emotions for every human on the planet. And as long as it feels like there is a threat, it's going to make things feel a lot harder for you.
I feel like burnout is a catch-all term. I feel like it's when you
It
go to the
is.
doctor and they don't know what's wrong with you.
Right.
And so they give you this like, oh, it's just this thing. Everybody seems to be experiencing it. Go home and drink water or something, right? It's
Right.
like
Right. That's what
there's
I
no
mean.
there's no real solution. I love what you're saying here because you're like, well, you're told to go on vacation. You're told to take a break. You're told to tone it back and find a new pace, right? But you're right. It's like once you've gotten there, you have this residual anxiety, let's call it, a residual anxiety that those things don't really seem to fix. And I know you've dived into the neuroscience of it all. What is actually happening to us, Rochelle? Like behind the scenes in our nervous system, what is happening to us?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, we've all been taught for so many years, decades, that mindset is the thing, that whatever you're thinking causes your emotion. You think, then you feel, then you act in some way, take an action, and then you get a result.
Yeah.
And so, what people have focused on is what are your thoughts, positive thoughts, affirmations, journaling, etc. Okay, so that's all fine. However, in the 1990s, there's two neuroscientists that did a lot of work, Ledoux and Damasio, did a lot of work really studying the impact of emotions. And what they found is that emotions fire first. So it's emotion, then 350 milliseconds later is a thought. The thought makes sense of how you're feeling. Then you take an action, then you get a result. We've known this for 35 years,
Wow.
yet no one's been talking about it. And it's one of the things that's sort of our mission is to help people understand that the reason the mindset stuff isn't helping you is not because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's because you're using the wrong tool for the job. So if emotions are the things that actually get us results, then we have to go back to the source of emotion. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have to relive and tell a story about what you did or what happened to you and all those sorts of things, because awareness also doesn't fix it. Mindset things and awareness work on your cognitive mind, your conscious mind.
Yeah.
But what is running you is your nervous system, your subconscious, your emotions.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have two different tools. I always say you can't use a logical tool to fix an emotional issue. So you've got to have a different tool. When that pressure builds up so much in your nervous system, that's when your nervous system is out there looking for threat. That's all it cares about. It doesn't care whether you're successful, whether you make money, whether
Yep.
you're happy. None of the positive things it cares about. It is only looking at is there something that's going to kill you?
Yeah. Save
And
us
when
from the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing is when performance drag gets high enough, all your nervous system does is it goes threat, threat, threat. Why do you not go build more business? Because the threat can seem like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do even more work. If I get
Yeah.
more business, it creates more work. That creates more stress. So guess what? I don't prospect. I don't find new business. I don't go do anything.
Mhm.
Why do I not, go get on the stage somewhere or make a lot more money? Because people might be looking at me and I don't want that judgment or I don't want to be in the eye because then I got to be on all the time. That's
Yeah.
stress and pressure. And so your nervous system is looking for those threats. And as it does, it will pull you back. And so it's doing its job. It's there to protect you. But the problem is it's working on old data because all this stress has just added up over years. This doesn't happen in days. This happens over years. And so you got to remove all of that pressure.
Yeah.
And once you do, you get a nervous system reset. And now you can go do all the things you need to do and it's easy again.
I think the scary thing about what you're saying is the flip takes something from we feel in control to something that, holy shit, we're not in control. Or like, at least like we haven't been in control, right? Because, I mean, I've had a lot of experts on here talk about the subconscious and how we're operating on about a 95%, if not higher,
Yes.
automatic program, right? And I love the idea of that. It's like, great, if the automatic program is working for you. And I think that's ultimately what you're saying is that when you were looking at some of the leaders you're working with, and some are getting highly successful results from your training, and some are struggling, and you're like, what is going on here? You're basically saying the underlying programming is either working for them or working against them.
Correct. You can also think of it like it's outdated programming. So as your subconscious is sort of like your hardware, where it stores all of your emotional patterns, and we all have emotional patterns. Somebody says something to me, I feel this way, I act this way, and we've been doing that for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So it stores your emotional patterns. Your nervous system is the executor of those patterns. So all it does is it goes, what looks familiar? Boom, this is exactly how I will act in that moment.
Yeah.
And so for many years, those emotional patterns do great for you, right? You do great and it's fantastic. But as they get older, because they've been around for a long time, and as you grow and change, they're not growing and changing with you. And so it's sort of like, you're trying to wear the same outfit from 1980 that, think of when you were 10 years old, you're trying to put that outfit on and you're 40 or 50. It's not going to fit.
Yeah.
It's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And so the great thing about it is that you can update it. You can update your nervous system. It's easy to do. It's very fast and it's permanent. It's not like something you have to redo all the time. Once it's updated, kind of like taking a virus out of a computer, your
Yeah.
body goes back online, your nervous system goes back online, and you get to create from the place that you should be creating from, creating your business, your life, whatever it is.
I love that. I think the problem that I've always had with these stupid automated programs, as somebody who has struggled with them myself, is that it does feel like something I didn't choose. I think that's the part that really frustrates me about the subconscious is that I am a very performance-oriented person. I love taking action, completing things, moving forward. And yet, even I'm well aware that there's certain things that are running behind the program that are
Yeah.
slowing me down. And it sucks because I've interviewed enough people, I've had enough conversations, I feel like I'm in tune in a way that maybe some are not, enough to recognize that it is holding me back in certain ways. And
Yes.
I think one of the hard parts is I'm not even sure necessarily what those programs are.
Yeah. Well, the cool part is that, at least with the work that we do with people, you don't have to be aware of what the programs are. Because again, awareness is something that is cognitive and conscious. And so I can be aware of what something that happened and why it happened. That doesn't change the emotional part of it. It just
Yeah.
makes me have intellectual, ideas about it. So the cool thing is you don't have to know what the programs are. If you know they're there, then you can very easily get them removed. And it's just a matter of becoming aware enough that there's some programming that is old and that I need to update, and I'm willing to make that change. Because the interesting thing is that your skill set is really driven through your nervous system. Your nervous system is the gatekeeper, and you can have amazing skill. Let's say you're a great salesperson, but there could be moments where you're like, why is my closing percentage going down? Why am I
Yeah.
not why is it not going as well? I'm not closing business like I used to, because your nervous system is the gatekeeper and it just stops it. And when you've got performance drag, it will stop your strategy. It will stop your sales execution. It will stop your business development. When you lift the gate and update that nervous system, then your skills go back online. So
Yeah.
you have the skill the whole time, you just don't have access to it when you're under a lot of stress and, a lot of pressure.
I want to spend a little bit of time there because I have found certain points in my life to be incredibly productive where
Mhm.
everything's flowing. It feels like things can't go wrong. That's just how great it's all flowing.
Yeah.
And then you're absolutely right. It's like something will happen and you may not even be conscious of it. And it kind of seems like an up and down roller coaster. If I had to if I had to look at like the trajectory of things for the podcast, my business, all that, there are moments when you're just going up and then it's just a gigantic crash and then you're going up again. What is happening? Why is it that it feels like sometimes your subconscious is working for you and for maybe reasons we can't even understand, it just flips a switch and suddenly we're going down. What's happening to us in the roller coaster?
It's just about threat. It's about how much threat does your nervous system perceive is in the world around you. And by the world, it's like your immediate world as well as obviously the bigger world. And the less threat you feel, the more you have access to all of your skills and all of your, cognitive abilities. When that threat gets higher and higher, then it eliminates or withholds your ability to, do the skill set that you know how to do. And one of the things to remember is that emotion always overrides logic. And we can have, a million different examples of that. If you ever remember, something maybe back from grade school or junior high or something like that, where somebody just like gave you a zinger,
Yeah.
they said something to you that was kind of mean. And in the
Mm-hmm.
moment, you were like, you can't think of anything to say back
Yeah.
because you got surprised, you got hurt, you got angry. That's the emotion rising up. Then what happens? You go home later on from school and you're sitting in your room and you're replaying that thing over and over in your head. You're like, I should have said this and I should have said that and I should have said this. All these retorts come up. Why did they come up after the fact? Because your emotion went down, logic came back online, and you're able to access it. So in the moment, you still had all those thoughts in your head, but you couldn't access it because the emotion overrode the logic.
Yeah.
Then when the emotion secedes, now both the logic can come back online. And that's why you can think of a million things. You're like, "Nah, I need to get in front of that person.
I
Let's
should have
say
said
this.
this.
Why couldn't I think of it?" So
Wow.
that's
Okay.
why. So when the emotion gets high, and we could, it's like when you say something that you're like, I know I shouldn't say this. I know I shouldn't say this. You're in a little maybe disagreement with a loved one and you say it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, I definitely should not have said
Gonna be apologizing for that later.
I'll be paying for this one. But in the moment, you're like, I must. So that's why we have these ups and downs a lot of times is it just literally is what is the threat that your nervous system is out there looking for. And some people have a higher ability to deal with threat. They don't see threat in as many places
Yeah.
as others. And some of that also depends on how you were raised and what happened earlier in your life as to whether you were under a lot of threat then or not. And so, we all have these different lenses that we see the world through. But if
Yeah.
you see threat, it's gonna make it hard, and it is just that's where the performance drag starts to come in.
I think what's so interesting about this conversation is that the level of threat that you might be talking about here, I think, is maybe even so small that it isn't perceived as a threat,
Yes.
but yet at least not consciously perceived as a threat.
Yes.
But what you're saying is subconsciously, your programming is saying you are in trouble. It's not necessarily ringing the alarm bells for you to notice, but it is making decisions for you without you being conscious of them. That is terrifying.
Right. Well, and that's where you really want to feel your body tells you everything. Your body is your GPS. So a lot of people will say, I want to make a lot of money. I know that I'm worth millions of dollars and I should be a
Mhm.
millionaire. Yet they work and they work and they work. And it seems like they've got the skill level. They should be able to do it. Well, why are they not doing it?
Yeah.
Because they've created a money ceiling at some point where that level of money, whatever it is, it's different for everyone,
Yeah.
is threatening. It could be that, if I make that much money, everyone is going to want something from me. They're going to expect me to pay for everything. It could be that my family is like, who do you think you are? It could be that that suddenly makes me more vulnerable to people that might want to take something from me. It's different for everybody, but those are just examples of where people go, I believe cognitively that
Yeah.
I'm worth more, yet why haven't I gotten there? I have the skill set to get there, I have the belief to get there, but your nervous system is going, no, you don't. No, you
Okay.
don't.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong here,
Sure.
you need to have alignment. Like the Think and Grow Rich works if you are emotionally in alignment with it. When there is a
Abs-
disconnect emotionally, the thoughts alone can't fix the problem.
Absolutely. That is a great way. Yeah. Mic drop right there.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, right? If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things that I've struggled with as a guy, and I do want to talk to you, is there a little bit more success for women? Because I think many women are more emotionally into, and I can tell you that from my fiance. She will tell me when I'm out of alignment here. But I know that like historically, and I've tried to do better since the start of this show, but I grew up in the generation as a guy where it was like, don't worry about it, push it down. If you just forget about it and move forward, you'll do fine. Look to the next thing. And so I know for me, there's a lot of things emotionally I haven't dealt with, even to this day, where it's
Right.
just like it's easier to just put them in the background and keep moving, right?
Yes.
But I'm aware. I am aware that there are things that I probably need to deal with at some point. I'm wondering if you're seeing more women find this alignment and find more success now than men. Do you find that you're working with a lot of men who are struggling with this
The men.
alignment?
Yes. I'd say the majority of our clients are men.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of reasons, I think anyway. I mean, one is that as you're building, men typically build bigger businesses than women in general. And they have been taught, and as society in general, if you're a high performer, male or female, you get taught push, resilience, grit, keep
Yeah.
going. There's books written about it, there's
Yep.
podcasts about it. And it all sounds great. And you can go on Twitter and everyone's going to tell you, if you're not getting what you want, is that you're not willing to go through the pain. That's actually not true, unfortunately. That's kind of the old school philosophy. But we get taught that, you got to keep pushing through. Something bad happens, you got to bounce back from it. It happens a lot more with business owners as well, because as a business owner, you don't have time to sit there and be like, let me process through my emotion of losing
Yeah.
the biggest deal of my business and then, go do something else. What you do is you go, okay, I lost that. I got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And as we do that, that accumulation of performance drag just builds up and up and up, because anything that you don't resolve emotionally gets stored in your nervous system. You can think of it kind of like a filing cabinet
Yeah.
where your nervous system has files for fear and guilt and sadness and judgment and anger. And they're different sizes of filing cabinets for everyone. But when something doesn't fully resolve, you don't work your way through it, then it gets put into an open file. And so performance drag is really when you've got a bunch of open files, you got
Yeah.
fear and all these things.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is just shut the filing drawers, and that's when your system goes back online. But one of the important things I want people to understand is resolving, an emotional issue does not mean you have to go talk about it or go relive it or understand why you did it or anything like that. Because when you go and relive, some sort of situation over and over again, what you're actually doing is your body feels all of those emotions all over. It thinks it's happening again.
Yeah.
And now you're building up even more stress and pressure in your system. So it's
When
doing the opposite of what you think it's doing.
it feels like an anxiety loop at that point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And those aren't fun.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
sometimes you gotta just, feel your way through it. And if you need to, go and scream and yell to get the emotion out,
Yeah.
don't do it in your house with people around. But like sometimes you gotta do that.
Yeah.
But you've got a limited time period to do it. You don't sit there and then relive the thing again and again and again,
Yeah.
unless you want to cause more problems for yourself in the future.
I will admit right now, I have screamed in my truck.
Yeah, hey.
I have screamed in my truck more than once. And I always felt better.
Yes, because you're getting it out of sometimes we just gotta push it out of the system.
Sometimes you just got to
let it
get it
go.
out. A little yelling doesn't
Yes,
hurt. Oh my gosh.
yes.
Yeah. That's amazing. I never thought about it that way. Okay. So help us out for my guys out there who I know struggle with emotion in general, me being one of them as well.
Yeah.
What does it mean? So let's say that I have a ton of open files, and many of us, if not everybody listening, has a ton of open files, I'm sure. How do we finally close these things up, Rochelle? How do we make sure that the past is the past and what we're working on is a happy, healthy future?
Well, when people are working with us, and then I'll give maybe some ideas on things you can do on your own as well. But when they're working with us, what we're doing is figuring out where those files are located. And then we just take people through verbal protocols that are using really commands that are embedded in the language that allow the nervous system to take the emotion out of it. You never tell your story. You never relive it. I don't know what happened to any of our clients in the past. It doesn't matter. We don't need to go there.
Yeah.
And you can release those emotions very, very quickly. And then once they're gone, they're gone. And you're like, you feel. I mean, we
Yeah.
have people who are like, I felt like I just lost 50 pounds I didn't even know I had. And that took 20 minutes. Like, what happened?
Wow.
Because your system just moved it on out. It doesn't view it as a threat anymore. And
Yeah.
so that's what we're doing when we're working with clients, one-on-one. If you're looking at what can I do myself to maybe alleviate some of it, one of the things is people have a tendency to live in 2 time zones. And by that, what I mean is they're living in the present, and then they're also living in the future, or they could also be living in the past. And what we know is if anybody travels, when you go to a different time zone and you don't acclimate immediately,
Yeah.
what do you get? Jet lag. You feel like garbage. Well, that's what happens when you are living in the present. My body's here, but my mind is out here in the future going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Freaking out about, something. Will I close the deal? Will I get the business? Will I, meet the person I want to meet? Whatever it is. When you go out there, you're now living in 2 time zones, and all that's going to do is living in the future creates stress and anxiety. Living in the past creates regret. So the one thing that you can do is if you are finding yourself living in the future, which a lot of people do,
Yeah.
you've got to imagine whatever that event is that you're nervous, anxious about, stressed about. Imagine it 15 minutes after the successful completion of it. Close your eyes. Imagine that whole thing playing out. And when you do, that anxiety will go away because you cannot imagine something successful and feel stressed about it at the same time. It's not possible.
That's right. Okay, interesting. So whenever you're thinking of something that could happen in the future, don't worry about it. Always picture it completed successfully and all as
15
well.
minutes after, and it's got to be a specific event to use that kind of tactic. It can't just be like life in general. But if you're concerned about a meeting, if you're concerned about, the sale of something, imagine that thing going down. You don't have to spend a lot of time there, but imagine it 15 minutes after the successful completion. And then you just go, okay, how do I feel now? Oh, I feel great. Then you come back to the present because now your emotions, your nervous system has re-regulated that piece anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's very helpful. And the other thing I'd say is just stay in the present as much as you can. It's challenging, but the way to do that is, what does this sweater feel like on my skin? How does it feel sitting on my chair? You get really minute in how you feel with like the weirdest, how much am I blinking? It will keep you in the present. And once your nervous system goes back into the present, then go do whatever it is that you need to do. Go do the task, go make the phone call.
Yeah. I think so many entrepreneurs, and I know you know this, we don't live in the present. We are always 3 steps ahead
Yes.
Because that's just the way that our brains work, right? One of the problems that I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs on the show is that we suck at celebrating anything.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
celebration requires us to be in the present, and we
Right.
don't live there.
Right. And we're told just move to the next thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Especially,
I'm
yeah.
horrible. We won a Signal Award last year. I was excited for about 15 minutes and was right back to to making shows and doing things, right? Like there was,
Yeah.
and I hate to admit that a little bit because it's like, yes, we should celebrate those things. But to me, it's like, okay, that's great. Let's keep going.
It can be that, but your nervous system needs the moment that goes, look what we did. Like
Yeah.
we created this thing. We got this goal. We accomplished something. And I'm just going to bask in it for a little bit. And it's okay. I don't
Yeah.
have to do anything else right now because I've worked so hard to get to this point, and I need that celebration so that the pressure comes out. Otherwise, you're just building up pressure, and you never let the steam out of it. The
Oh
pressure
no,
cooker.
I'm starting to feel pressure. Oh, Rochelle, I am horrible. I am horrible at like celebrating the moment and taking my foot off the gas. I have to admit to that right now. At the moment, like my fiance will attest to this. On weekends, I start to feel a little bit nuts. Because
Yeah.
in my mind, my thought is I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time. I need to get back to doing something.
Yes.
And I'm not alone in that. I know that.
No, absolutely not. When
I
we,
really struggle. I struggle with downtime.
yeah. We look a lot at money ceilings for our clients as well, where, they hit a plateau and it's just like, why am I bouncing around at this revenue or this income?
Yeah.
And that idea that effort equals money, that I always have to be putting in effort and doing, is a big signal for a money ceiling because that is, first of all, it's not true. And nobody really wants to have to put tons of effort in always that you never get a break.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a big one we see, oh my gosh, all the time with people where it's like, if I'm not producing, then I have no value. Then I'm
Yeah.
wasting time. I can't enjoy myself.
I think for me, I have a belief about momentum where I really believe like inside when you have it, you have it. So keep going. Don't let it go. Don't let it go anywhere. And I think for me, that has definitely gotten in the way of enjoying slowing down.
But the idea of momentum is that it's constantly going and you don't always have to be there pushing it. Once you get it going.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's how
No,
it is?
no, I'm just giving you 10. It doesn't mean you're like sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
But momentum means
I
it's
know.
going on
Yeah,
its
there
own.
should
It's
be
like,
some level of you can take a step back. No, in my
Yes.
mind, it's like, no, just keep going, full throttle, foot on the
Yeah.
pedal.
yeah, that's why you're a high performer because that's what we've been taught. And there's that fear that's like, if I take my
Yeah.
foot off the gas, the whole thing's going to stop. And that
It's a
becomes the
real,
nervous
it's a
system
real
threat.
fear. 100%. 100%. And I
Yeah.
said, I've talked with enough people that I know I'm not alone in that. That's a real
Absolutely
fear
not.
for a lot of entrepreneurs. They don't
That
want to
was
slow
one
down.
of mine too. I
Yeah.
had that. I used to have that. Oh my gosh. If I were like sitting on the couch and watching a movie and wasn't on my computer doing something, it was just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, the world is going to end. You will never make any money again in your life. You must do something, even,
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night. Yeah.
I think one of the things too that scares me a little bit about what you're talking about is that emotion to me feels like a variable that can be very out of control. Right? Like entrepreneurs, we're trying to control everything. That's really what we do. We are
Right.
trying to think 3 steps ahead and place the chess where it needs to be to win, right? But if the idea is that emotion is the founding action that is going to control my results, my success long term, yet emotion can be like things can come out of left field. You can lose somebody, you can go through a divorce, a sickness can happen that are all going to screw with your emotions in some pretty serious ways. I guess for me, what I'm alluding to here is what about the balance part of it? And I know, trust me, I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in finding coherence at this point. I'm a huge believer. But I know when I got into this, my thought is I wanted to understand work-life balance. I was a new entrepreneur when I started this show. And I'm like, where is the balance that people keep telling me about? There is no balance because what I learned was if things are going bad at work, it is absolutely going to be affecting your home life.
Yes.
If things are going bad at home, there is no way that doesn't translate into work. There is no balance. There's only coherence. But now the scary thing is that how do you handle those big emotional moments and not let them destroy your life and your business?
Here's the good news. The good news is that your emotions are completely under your control. And most people don't understand that because we've been conditioned that other people or situations make us feel a certain way. And if you look at the fallacy of that, you're the only person. I can't control your emotions. I could say something mean to you, and you can decide whether you laugh it off, whether you go, well, she's just a mean person, or whether you actually get hurt by it. Cannot make you feel threatened, fearful, angry. I also can't make you feel happy or anything like that. You decide. And that's one of the things we work with our clients a lot on. And that's a double-edged sword. The great thing is like, oh, wow, I do control it. Because
Yeah.
if I feel angry, I also could feel just even keeled, right? I could choose that if I wanted to. But on the other side, there's also responsibility with that because that means I can't blame the way I feel on other people, other situations, or anything like that. That means every time I feel something, I'm like, shoot, why did I choose this? And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that we challenge people to think about is when you feel, especially the negative emotions, why would you be choosing to feel angry? There is usually something that you're trying to accomplish for yourself through that emotion.
Yeah.
And it may not be something positive necessarily, but it may be like, hey, I want to feel like the victim because, I don't want to take responsibility for this. Or I want to feel like, if I'm in judgment, that I'm better than someone because that helps my ego. There's always something that we're trying to do. But the bottom line is you do get to choose. And your emotional state has 100% impact over every single thing, every action you're going to take. And so, as my mother said, choose carefully.
Yes.
You know? Choose wisely.
Yeah.
But knowing that is that I don't have to just react. I can respond instead. I can think about why am I angry? And you know
Yeah.
what? Does that serve me? If it doesn't, then let me get my emotions to a different place. And we're all able to do that. Sometimes it takes a little practice,
Yeah.
but we are all able to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So what you're suggesting is that the initial reaction, emotional response isn't the one you have to go with.
Correct.
You don't necessarily control that initial response. I want to maybe start there. I know there's been situations where I've been very angry. My kid breaks something or God knows what. There's a mess. It's like, right? But you're absolutely right. In that moment, you have to tone it back down and you have to make a different choice. What you're suggesting is that you don't necessarily control the first response, but you do get to control what you switch it to.
Yes. And generally, your first response is going to be from that subconscious, emotional pattern that you just respond without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
What happens when you get the performance drag out is you don't respond that way anymore. You'll find situations where you're like, I used to get angry about that. Doesn't bother me at all. Like, I got no problem, no big deal at all. Without that, though, yes, you can get angry about something or get sad about something. And, the important part is you do need to feel it. It's not about, hey, let me repress it and I'm just going to not get angry and I'm going to suddenly act happy because that would be a little
That's
weird.
crazy. Don't do that.
That's crazy. Don't do that. Don't do that. So get the emotion out. Again, that might be where you need to go yell in your truck.
Yeah.
Get it out and then decide, how do I want to feel now? And it doesn't have to be like I go from anger to absolute bliss. It's
Yeah.
like maybe I just go to frustration rather than anger. That's a little less angry.
Yeah.
And if I go there, then I can make the next jump. But
Yeah.
it really is up to you. You want different results, start changing your emotion.
Amazing. And I think that's a great place to leave off and lead into bulletproof management. Tell us a little bit about your organization. Take us into, how you implement performance drag, who you work with, who is it for? And I know you do public speaking as well, so please speak to that too.
Yes. So we are working with primarily business owners, founders of companies, people who already have had a lot of success and they've just hit that moment where they go, things are just a lot harder than they used to be. I know what I should be doing and I'm just not getting myself to do it anymore. And so there's some recognition internally that something is off, something's going on. And so those are the types of people that we work with that are successful and want to get back to that momentum again because they feel that momentum shift. And we work with them, one-on-one through our proprietary process, which is called emotional blueprinting. And it's very quick, it's permanent, and, it's not reliving anything, not retelling anything. No secrets need to be shared with anyone. And what we see are some amazing results where sales take off. We've seen, sales double. We've seen people who haven't slept in a year sleep within 2 weeks.
Wow.
We see decision clarity come back. We see people expanding their business into other areas that they had worked on for years and years and just kept coming up against a plateau on that. And suddenly they're able to do it. So we see some really amazing results very, very quickly.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the size of teams. Like, is this typically one-on-one, or do you actually get a chance to work with organizations?
We do both. So generally, if we're working with the entrepreneur, the business owner, or CEO of a company, we're doing that one-on-one. And then if they want us to work with their team, we're usually doing a mix of team and one-on-one. There is some one-on-one work that is done with everybody.
Now, before the show, you were mentioning a scorecard. Tell me a little bit about the Performance Drag scorecard and where our listeners can find it.
Yes. So the Performance Drag scorecard is something that we created that allows people to see how much performance drag do they have. It will take you about 1 minute. You're going to answer 7 questions, and you get an immediate results on that. That's going to tell you that you're either low, moderate, or significant. So it will tell you exactly where you are in performance drag, and then it will give you some options on things that you could do about it if you so choose. So it's a really easy thing to do, and I believe we're going to leave the link in the show notes for that.
It'll be in the show notes, you bet. And I'll post. So wherever you find this show, there will be a link to the scorecard. Check it out. Give it a try. Rochelle, this has been absolutely amazing. I know you're based in New York.
Yep.
Do you also service worldwide? We do have a worldwide audience on the show.
We do. We've got clients everywhere from Dubai to, Denmark, England, all over the place.
Amazing. And if people want to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to do so?
The best way is you can email me. It's rochelle@emotionalbp.com. Or you could just go onto our website, emotionalbp.com, and you can find links on there to get a hold of me as well.
Incredible. Rochelle, this has been amazing. I know it flipped the script a little bit. Put it this way, in 335 conversations, nobody has ever said to look at the emotions first. So that's like a first for the show. It's been incredible.
Okay.
It's been a ton of fun. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. It's been fun. Thank you.
Until next time, you've been listening to the Business Development Podcast, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Imagine pulling into your garage and watching your car disappear into the floor or rise into view like something straight out of a movie. That's what Atlas Elite Lifts delivers. Atlas creates stunning car lift systems designed for luxury homes, high-end condominiums, premium dealerships, and commercial spaces where design matters. These systems are not just engineered for performance. They're designed to become part of the architecture itself. And honestly, it's something you have to see to believe. So beautiful, it's Batcave ready. Visit www.atlaselitelifts.com today.